Alright, we're setting a few more traps. I always say set on sign. What better thing than sign than raccoon tracks in the mud? There's a couple really nice ones up here. That means we know there's something coming through here every night. And here is a nice trail. You can see they are a lazy animal. They follow the path of least resistance. And there's a nice trail, goes down into a pile of wood. There we go. We're going to try to double set this. We're going to put a snare and a foot trap. This is called a blind set. We're not using any bait on this. We're just hoping that something walks through and gets caught in it. I'm typically use for raccoon size animals a 1.5 coil spring. You can see the coil springs in it. It doesn't have the great big long springs like a long spring would have that you usually see in all the old-timey movies and stuff. And then I'm using rebar stakes. Then I also have my snare pole. This is something I made myself. It's not my design by any means. They're also called, I call them snare poles. I don't know, there's also different names to them. I don't know it all. It's a chunk of 1/2-inch rebar with a hunk of number 9 wire welded to it. I built a little jig so I could bend them and weld them on. Yes, it takes a little bit of time, but my time's worth nothing, plus it's something to do. And we got snares. This is a hunk of cable with a swivel and a whammy. The whammy hooks into the wire to hold the spring, or to loop the loop up. These are washer locks. It's a bent washer with 2 holes in it, and that's what causes it. And then in Iowa we have to have a deer lock so this hole won't get smaller than, I don't remember if it's 2 inches or something like that. There's an actual rule. These are purchased. You can make them yourself. Let me see if I can get this open. These are called a relaxing snare. Well, let me get my camera set up right, so that way you can actually see it and I can have both hands to show you what it is. Just a sec. They call this a relaxing lock. I don't know if I can get it all pulled out. When it pulls tight, when it lets off, it relaxes. It doesn't hold it. It's just the tension from the animal pulling on it was what actually holds it. This isn't like what you see in all the movies and all the other stuff where it just keeps choking and choking and choking and gets it so it suffocates it. 99.9% of the time when I catch something in the snare, it's still alive the next day when I get there to check it. But I usually set mine about the size of my hand, about my hand high up off the ground. That way you're catching it around the head, because the way they walk through, you want their head to come through here that way, and then it just pulls tight and holds them. These are pretty easy to set, and we do have to have our trap tag on them by state law, which mine's all on here. We do have the nice swivel. This is why I say that picture frame wire that everybody says to use is an actual snare wire is a joke. This is braided steel, aircraft steel cable. They still mess these up on a regular basis. I typically shoot for raccoon-sized animals because they're easy, plus I tend to have a lot of damage by them. So that's why we shoot for them. That size animal, we like to thin the population down. Then we got the snare pole. I like to set it just a little bit off the trail. Let's see if we can get it pushed in without hammering. Ooh, maybe. We're going to have to grab the hammer. Just a sec. I found the axe from camping last weekend first, so we'll just use it. Well, if I can hit it. And this pole will hold coyote-sized animals. I typically don't snare for coyote, but you could. Again, hand-sized snare hole. We have the whammy. It goes right on. Holds the cable tight until the animal pulls. Then I can take it and twist it back and forth, adjust the wire where I want it. If I can get it to hang the way I want, I can twist it, manipulate it. I'm way high, bend it down. We're hand-sized, hand high. I like to fluff the grass up just a little bit on both sides, so that way they're walking through it. And let's tip it this way. And if I have to, I can stick a little piece of grass in the back side to hold it up. Fluff this up just a hair, that way they are going through. The little 1.5 coil springs. If you want to adjust it, you flip the leg up, or the back side up, the jaw that is not under tension, because you can actually trip it off. You don't catch your finger because you're underneath it. Makes it a little safe. I like to always set them off once. Hope the dog doesn't get stuck. I always like to set them off once. Just makes me a little bit more comfortable knowing that it will trip. Sometimes stuff gets bent up a little bit. I like to adjust it so the pan's pretty flat. And if you look, it's almost ready to go off. But again, I can carry it, hold it, move it around. With the jaw up, I can't get myself snapped unless I put my finger in it. They don't really hurt, but it startles the crap out of you every stinking time because you just don't expect it to go off. And we'll come down here just a little bit farther. Hopefully you can still see me. Here's a nice little flat spot you can tell they've been stepping on. Kind of rake the grass back. Ooh, that fits perfect down in there. I'll show you guys just a second. Take the stake, put it through the end, get it bent down. I like to put a couple leaves on it just to kind of hide it a little bit, but not put too much on it, because too much can make an animal be able to pull out. And we don't want that, and I'll just step on that. Let me grab the camera again. Turn my arm around the other side, and you can see right where I put it. Right here under this leaf. You can see it. I move the camera the right way. By doing that, it kind of breaks up the outline. You about don't see it. If we don't see it, they're not going to see it. We got this great big run. You can tell obvious where they're going. It makes it pretty easy. And you look up at that snare. You don't see it. You walk right by it. Pretty easy if you didn't know it. It just, and they're used to pushing through all this grass and weeds. Poof, right there, done. That's an easy. They come through, get caught, it pulls off. That easy. Makes it nice. Stand here without that chunk of rebar sitting there, you don't see that in the grass. They don't see it. It's an easy way to catch them. Minimal expense, and the good thing with the snares, they don't cost a whole lot. You can get them pre-made. You can make them yourself. Really economical. They are one-time use. I do have my one that I caught this morning. Let me grab it out. And this is why I say that snare wire is absolutely garbage. Because this is what they did to a freaking braided cable. And actually this one looks better than most. It's not all janked up too bad. But see how that cable's all twisted and bent? And that's with a braided cable. A piece of wire would have been broken, gone. And it has a swivel on these. If you don't have a swivel, it's pretty well junk. I've seen these where they've got the cable almost broken half. And that's just a 20, maybe a 30-pound animal. Lots of good fresh meat. By the time you skin it and gut it and debone it, you're probably looking at, I'd say, 10 pounds of meat. So, there you go, guys. Have a nice day.